Taniyah, the two Spelman and Morehouse students that were attacked and beaten during the protests, along with their parents. And we're here speaking for Tamika Miller, the wife of Rayshard Brooks. We just got done meeting with our new district attorney, Fani Willis, and we're here to now state that a special prosecutor needs to be appointed by the Attorney General, effective immediately. We were happy to sit down with her face to face. She apologized for not informing the family beforehand of the recusal action that she had taken, which we respected and I think was very big of her. She talked to us for probably about an hour, very candid conversation. We respect that. And we also respect her belief that she cannot prosecute this case, which did not change after Attorney General Carr sent it back to her. So we are calling for him to appoint a special prosecutor to sit down with her face to face so she can further explain to him why she believes Fulton County and her office cannot handle this case. And whether we agree with her or disagree with her doesn't matter. If she believes it and feels strongly about it, then that needs to happen.
And just to add to what Chris is saying, the main issue here is that the families are in limbo. They can't move on with their lives because this can't get off the ground. So you think the police are getting prosecuted, and then it doesn't start, and then someone's in jail, and then they're out of jail. There's no continuity, and so for the children and for the victims, it makes it a non-starter. It makes it so you can't heal. It's like a wound, and you continuously rip off the scab, and then it grows back, and then you rip it off, and then it grows back, and you rip it off. What the family needs and what they want is just a road to closure, to start down the path to have this thing done and put this behind them. These for the Pilgrim and Young case, these are young adults, and so for their lives, this has kind of been a holdup. They can't move past this point in their life. So at least with the process started, there was a special attorney general. They could start the healing process and finally move past this and start getting on to the next step in their life, which they can't. As far as the Brooks case, that case is something that Tamika Brooks, who's not here with us today, she and her family really want to get past as well, and so they can't get the engine started on that one. So we're just asking that the Attorney General take a really hard look at this, speak to DA Willis, and make sure that something happens for the benefit of these families, because right now it seems like this is a football, political football that keeps getting kicked to one place and then another place, when someone can just take it, run with it, and start getting these families some kind of justice and some kind of closure to what happened to them last year.
My name is Harold Spence, and I'm a partner with the Davis Bozeman law firm. We very much appreciate the newly elected district attorney having this meeting with us. We had a great exchange during that meeting. But the reality is that we have two young people who were severely traumatized by an incident largely captured on video for the world to see. And while these two young people attempt to recover, we're having this jurisdictional battle about who is going to handle the criminal prosecution of this case. Now, it's not our decision who handles the prosecution, but we know what the reasons were given for the recusal of the district attorney's office. Those reasons seem to be personal to the former district attorney. The three reasons given were that the district attorney had made unethical statements, the former district attorney had made unethical statements in public. 2, that the district attorney might be a witness. And 3, that the former district attorney had a conflict of interest because of the GBI investigation. None of those reasons has anything to do with the newly elected DA. There's no contention that she would be a witness in the case. There's no contention that she made any unethical statements. There's no contention that she has a conflict of interest because of some GBI investigation. However it ends up being resolved, let's get this jurisdictional turf battle resolved over who is going to prosecute this case, so that the terror that we saw these two young people go through on videotape can be addressed by a court of law, and that those responsible for that terror can be held accountable for it. So, thank you much.
Any questions, real quick?
Can you talk a little bit about the communication these young adults had with Willis?
Yeah, I mean, they spoke to her directly.
Would they like to say anything?
Yeah, neither good. You know, they spoke to her directly. She talked to them. She apologized to them directly for not calling them and letting them know about the recusal. She did her best to try and explain the conflicts that she believes that the office has. And like I said, whether we agree or disagree with it, it's clear that she believes a special prosecutor will be better suited to handle this case. So the only thing we can do is support that. You know,
What are the next steps for that?
I don't know. We want the Attorney General to take another look at it, to see if he and Ms. Willis can come to some agreement that maybe there is a conflict and now he does need to appoint someone. But I believe that she's looking into the process of what the next step is.
There are also motions that have been filed, and in those motions, as the district attorney works those motions out, that will push the case forward and kind of make them either appoint someone or not appoint someone at that point in time. So it's either going to be the attorney general and the district attorney speak to each other and decide that a special attorney general needs to be appointed, or those motions kind of suss it out and then they get to that point using that process.
Who filed the motions and how many are there?
It's the motion for recusal that was found by the defendants in the case, in the Brooks case. And if they do lose that, then the judge could rule out Ms. Willis as handling the case. Then a special prosecutor would have to be appointed.
Well, those were filed by the officers?
They were filed by the lawyers for the officers,
Correct.
and that hasn't been ruled on.
It's clear that there's a level of frustration among all you guys in terms of what you guys are dealing with. Just as we're trying to figure this out, when they're explaining this to you, and you know there's no date for this even to resolve itself, how frustrating is this moment now after having this conversation with them?
I mean, it's frustrating just because, you know, all we want in these cases where there's excessive use of force is for the people to decide, for a jury, whether grand jury or jury, just for them to decide. If they let the officer off, fine. You always have to accept what the people decide. But for it to be punted around, like my partner said, this person gets this person, and I mean, it's so hard to just get justice for victims when no one wants to decide what is going to happen. And so it's frustrating that both incidents were caught on video. Action was taken, which the whole country got behind and thought was justice, and then now it's taken away and nothing. And even that goes for the civil side also. You know, the city of Atlanta, which came out with a big press conference and, you know, said what happened was wrong and was excessive use of force. They haven't taken the civil cases seriously for these kids or for Brooks. So, you know, when the camera's on and people are protesting, I guess it looks good. But when everyone goes away, so does justice.
Has anyone thought about the victims at all in this case so far, do you think? Has anybody thought about them?
I don't think so, no. These children, they're not even children, these are young adults, and they're not getting to move to the next step of their life because of this. They can't move forward. In the Brooks case, that's a whole family of people that can't move forward because someone can't decide who's going to prosecute a case that clearly needs to be prosecuted. So no, we don't feel like people are looking out for the family. People are looking out for themselves and their offices and things of that nature. And we understand that. But in doing that, they need to also take into account these are real people's lives that are in limbo because of these decisions.
What did y'all think? What was your assessment of the case that the DA made?
Right.
Why she get prosecuted? What did you feel like her?
She feels very strongly that she has a conflict of interest based on the recusal motion that was filed. The 3 reasons given for that motion don't have anything to do with her. Notwithstanding, she believes that she has a conflict because the office has been tainted because of alleged misconduct by the former district attorney. Again, that's not for us to decide, but you can decide for yourself. Again, the 3 reasons: that the former district attorney made unethical public statements, that the former district attorney might be a witness, that the former district attorney has a conflict of interest because of an ongoing GBI investigation. Not one of those reasons has anything to do with the current district attorney. Nothing. And it's interesting, the questions that we've gotten here today, we're talking about jurisdiction. What are we not talking about? We're not talking about fundamental concepts like accountability or justice for these 2 young people, or reformation of the system so that this doesn't happen again. We're not talking about these important foundational concepts. Let's get this whole jurisdictional matter resolved so that this case can be prosecuted, so that there can be accountability, and so that the ultimate objective of any legal inquiry can be accomplished, and that is that justice be achieved.
So
Sounds
what
like
do
you
you
were
think is
under-
actually going on then? So it looks like no one wants to touch this case, right? What's happening? What's happening behind it?
Well, it's kind of what we've been telling you. This is a political football. This case is tricky for any department, any agency, any group that's going to touch it. No one wants to be the person who did the wrong thing, right? But no one also wants to be the person to step up and do the right thing for these families. So, that's what's going on right now, and that's the issue we're having.
Is there a
Last one.
potential for an outcome where
Who
no one...
initiated today's meeting, and is this the first time you talked to Taniyah about these cases since she took office?
Yeah, we reached out to her to see if we could meet and bring the families to talk in person because we were upset that we found out about the recusal through you all. And she agreed to meet. And like I said, she apologized for that. We accepted that. That was big of her to do that. And I mean, it was a good meeting. It's just that,
We talked on the phone.
you know,
And we also talked to her on the phone when the officers were reinstated. But we haven't gotten any kind of lead on any of this stuff happening. We're finding out like you guys are finding out, and then we make phone calls.
And I want to give you guys the opportunity as well. Governor Kemp today is supposed to be discussing the citizens arrest law. I know you represent the Arbery case. Do you have any position or thoughts on if changing that, seeking to change that law?
yeah, and we've already been speaking about that. It's outdated, it's antiquated, and it leads to Ahmaud Arbery's.
Is there any possibility that these cases don't get prosecuted? Is that a potential outcome?
Yes,
Yeah.
that there is a possibility that happens. And so this is why we want to let everyone know that and this is what Chris was saying earlier, the pressure that was applied and the feeling that they had when everybody was in the streets and they came out and said, we're going to prosecute these cases and we're going to prosecute these officers, that has died down. And so they don't have that same energy to move forward with these cases. So yes, that is still something that could happen, and we don't want it to happen. So this is why we're here talking to you today.
And is there any comments about the fact that, Fani Willis has chosen to also make announcements about pursuing Donald Trump in some of these larger national cases? Is that something that the victims are talking about?
It's not something that we've addressed with them directly, but all we want is the same attention and energy for what happens locally here in Fulton County to young black kids as we do for going after a former president in DC. And so, maybe a special prosecutor will do that.
Who is the judge that's going to rule on the recusal motion?
I don't know who the judge is.
I'm not sure. Last question.
Chris, will the parents of the students like to say anything about how they felt about the apology?
You want to say anything?
Sure.
State your name, please, sir.
Charles Young, Messiah Young's father. I'd say more of the same. I mean, again, we know what the Brooks family has gone through. We know what our family, the Pilgrim family, has gone through as well. And I'd like to, it's stress, like they address. I mean, these are young adults, right? They can't move on with their lives. in addition to that, I mean, they're in counseling. I mean, this extends the time, the pain for them. I mean, we initially understood that this would be a 1 to 2 year process, maybe. This now looks like, 2 to 3 years. So, I mean, you consider their education, you consider how they move forward. I mean, they got plans in their lives as well. So I'm really, the human side of this whole thing. Ms. Willis addressed us this morning. She said, hey, I'm a parent. Well, be a parent. Be a parent. Put yourself, take off all the political stuff and just be a parent. Right, and attack it in that manner. So that's what we'd like to see, and that's what we wish that we just move forward with this whole thing.
Do you accept her apology?
I accept the apology because I understand how to forgive, and I respect the fact that she acknowledged her mistake. So yeah, I can accept that at this point. But again, that's one part of this of a bigger picture.
Hello, I'm Pilgrim. I'm Taniyah's father. I just want resolution for this whole thing. To just see where she was and where she is now is gut-wrenching. And I just think that her, Messiah, the Youngs, everybody, we just want resolution. We don't want it to be punted. We don't want it to be thrown back and forth. We just want resolution. And I think that's the biggest thing. That's the bottom line.